God gave Elijah some directions that didn't seem to make a whole lot of sense. When Elijah was hungry, God sent him to stay with a poor widow who didn't have any extra food. This might not sound like a good idea, but God knew what he was doing. Even though the woman had just enough food to prepare one meal for Elijah, herself, and her son, she followed God's directions. After that meal, all of her food was gone. But the next day, she found that she still had just enough food for one more meal. God provided, and the whole time that Elijah stayed with the widow and her son, there was enough food for them to eat. Later, the woman's son got very sick and died. But because Elijah had followed God's directions, he was there to bring her son back to life. Directions are important. For example, you might have everything you need to bake a cake, but if you skip any of the directions in the recipe, it's not going to turn out very good. Maybe you put all the ingredients in a bowl and say, "I don't understand why I have to mix all this stuff up. I don't feel like mixing it up." So you just dump it into a pan and stick it in the oven. Instead of a cake, you'll end up with a disgusting mess. Sometimes God's directions might not make sense to us. Jesus tells us to love our enemies and pray for people who are mean to us. Those directions are hard to follow and might not seem to make sense. But God knows what He's doing. He gave us the Bible, which has a lot of really great directions for living His way and following Jesus. Directions matter, whether we are baking a cake, learning in school, or following Jesus. Don't skip the directions. Read the Bible, learn God's plan for living, and follow it. God will lead us down the road He has prepared for us, and He will use us to do great things in His name.